and we can see where the global average has gone. From 2016, the global average was 74, and now the global average is 141. So in those 5 years, it's almost doubled.
Welcome to the MTD Technical Corner. Today I'm joined by Ashley Page from Hydrafeed, and today we're going to take a real deep dive into the automation adoption in the UK over the last few years. I've certainly seen a lot more consideration about automation from the end users that I've been visiting. Ash, welcome to the MTD Technical Corner.
Thank you for having us.
Ash, can you give us a bit of an insight over the previous few years in regards to the automation adoption?
Yeah, so the UK really are adopting automation now. So these past few years, we've seen our growth, and it's a real core part of our business. We are seeing more and more interest and more installations. We wanted to go through a bit of where we see 2023 and the biggest drivers for automation, so why people are looking at automation. The biggest driver for us, we're finding, is the lack of skilled staff. In previous years, it hasn't been such a contributing factor, but now the lack of skilled staff is actually stopping companies from growing. The increase of labour costs, so this is directly linked with that, and also the cost of living. Productivity and profit increase. Now, these are obvious ones from automation. Supply chain issues have sort of ironed out a bit recently, but we are at the lower end of the scale where a lot of the electronics are still suffering with supply chain issues and globalisation. So globalisation is the process by which the world is becoming more interconnected. So the fundamentals of that mean that our competitors are no longer local companies or even companies within the same country.
So we need to remain or become more competitive to remain competitive globally.
Yeah.
Some really good points and drivers for automation here, Ash. The skills shortage, in my opinion, is one of the biggest obstacles we need to overcome. So what is it looking like globally in regards to the adoption of automation? Have you got any figures for us?
Yeah, so recently some figures came out that show the number of industrial robots per 10,000 employees, and this is a fantastic gauge of productivity of a nation. Now that is exactly what this chart is. So you can see the Republic of Korea at the top. So they actually have one robot per 10 employees.
Wow.
And they're running away and leading the way.
Well, I don't see England on this chart yet, but I'm sure you'll address that shortly. I see Germany in 4th place. They seem to be doing rather well.
A great quote from the magazine.
Well, 30% an hour more productive than a UK worker. I mean, that's very, very powerful, and I think it really emphasises the fact that you really do need to automate to stay competitive globally, not just amongst ourselves in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, German manufacturers have been leading the way on automation for many, many years.
So where are we on this chart, and what's this actual chart showing here, Ash?
So I'm just trying to show the inevitable growth of automation. So the same figures that we just looked at a moment ago, and we can see where the global average has gone. From 2016, the global average was 74, and now the global average is 141. So in those 5 years, it's almost doubled.
And where are we? Where are the UK?
So the UK aren't actually on this list. We're 24th on the list, and our average is 126 robots per 10,000 employees.
So we're increasing, we're doing a good job, but we still need to do more.
Yeah, I mean, over those last 5 years, we've gone from 71 units to 126 units. So there's lots of improvement to be had, but we're certainly getting there.
And what companies are you seeing that are purchasing and investing in automation?
So some of the main things that companies are looking for when they come to automate. So we are seeing companies want to reduce operations. So more twin spindle machines, twin turret machines, more complex machines, bits and bobs like that. So lots less second ops, less handling effectively. Less work in progress, which is hand in hand with that. So less pallets of parts sat around your workshop, half finished. And that does, as I say, lead onto those more complex machines. More machines, more 5-axis machines are being sold now, more multitasking machines.
I want to look and discuss the more complex machining shortly, but is there still barriers to entry in regards to volumes?
Yes, people still sometimes have the mindset that I don't have the work for a robot. And that robot and the work is sometimes thought as real high batches and high volumes. So a real common question we do get asked is, or said to us is, I don't have big batches, or do I need big batches to automate? So we show a calculation that's just simple and shows on what we use in our workshop. So we have manufacturing in Milton Keynes, and we have a typical 8-hour working day. So we say of an 8-hour working day over 220 working days a year, that gives us 1,760 hours. Now, nobody's spindles are running all 8 hours. Sort of, you've got your lunch breaks, you've got setting the machine, you've actually got proving the machine off and getting it working. So a fairly typical in our own place, we say our spindles are running for 5 hours a day. So 5 hours a day times 220 working days is our actual that we get from the output is 1,100 hours. So those 3 hours that we miss between the 8 and the 5, if we said that we set our machines from 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock at night, so we say, well, we're going to gain another 3 hours. So 3 hours times 220 days is 660 hours, which is the additional what we get a year. Now that's a 60% increase from just 3 hours.
I mean, that's unbelievable, really, when you put that into perspective. And imagine if you're currently doing an 8-hour shift, but then you're looking to run 24/7. You know, the difference that could make to your business is incredible. Now let's move on to these multitasking machines that you mentioned. I mean, when buying one of these machine tools, they're not cheap. So ultimately, if I was the owner of a business, I would want to sweat my asset. I would want to run their machines 24/7 if possible.
Yeah, and as you say, so the multitasking machines that are out there, you want to run that as long as possible because of the cost, but the machines are capable of creating a stable operation where you have your swarf management, tool life, and it's all built into the machine, and you can create that stable operation. So when you press that green button and walk away, you're happy to leave it running. These couple of examples here on the Integrex machines show a 25 kilogram payload robot and a 165 kilo payload robot. This larger robot is handling a 60 kilogram billet that they're only getting a few per hour or a few per shift, and we've actually quadrupled the amount because the robot is effectively the crane as well.
So some of these examples that you're giving here, they're really achieving quite significant return of investments. Let's move on to, you mentioned stable processes. Tell me more about a stable process and why this is so important in an automated process.
So it ensures that you get good parts every time. And this example here that we see, this is a 90 kilo billet on a multitasking machine. This particular company, 80 to 90% of their cycle time is roughing operations. They spend the weekend just letting the machine churn through all this roughing operations, and then they do their finishing cuts on the Monday morning, if you like. But they've already done, of that 2 hour cycle time, 80, 90% of it is already done, and it's been done over the weekend. But to do that, they need to put these processes in place that create the stable operation. So probing tools, probing workpieces.
And do you help with this stable process?
Yeah, for sure. We'll be with you. We'll write your subroutines. We'll write your programs with you to help you get through the communication with the robot and the CNC.
To a certain degree, you're a consultant of automation. So who should automate?
We've found that some of the quick wins and easy sort of people to select and actually analyse how you're going to benefit from that, those people generally are if you make your own component. So if you manufacture your own components, you'd have a bit of foresight in planning. So you know what you did last year, you know what you did this last quarter. So we can look at those averages and plan our production based around that. So you can look at your raw material, make sure you get everything in as you should, because you can plan. Another big sort of category would be if you run 24/5 or you run 24/7. If you run 24/5 and 24/7 and you don't automate, you need to. The market is pushing you to at the moment. And then if you don't possibly fit into these categories, we can analyse with you and look through things like, as I've just said, most companies make repeat parts and families of parts. And it might be that, yes, you do, but there's a lot of high mix, low volume thereafter. And how do we approach that? How do we make sure those ones and twos are still catered for in the cell when you're not using the robot? We can go through all of that. Look at your bottlenecks. Is the machining is the turning department feeding the milling department? Are the machine tools feeding assembly? And there's always a flow of events that we can look at and analyse with you to pick the best product for one and make sure that we are giving you the solution that you need.
Ash, absolutely brilliant presentation. And I'm looking at these three areas. To be fair, to me, that covers everyone. Can an engineer afford not to automate?
No.
Ash, thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We focused on the robots today, the industrial robots, but Hydrafeed are a complete automation supplier. So contact them to find out more.